Hello, Ezra.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right. Now, you were partying till the small hours, were you?
Relatively, yeah. I was out pretty late.
Okay, because you got a big award, Best Act in the World today at the Q Awards. I mean, obviously you're a gracious person who wouldn't say anything anti it, but are awards high up in, what makes Vampire Weekend tick?
Well, we haven't won that many.
Really?
so it's not too big a part of our world, but it's nice when it happens.
Yeah. And I always say, well, I don't know if this is true for you, but sometimes when people say, we welcome constructive criticism, I kind of think that's a lie. I think really what people want is unalloyed praise, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, we criticize ourselves enough behind the scenes.
Do you? Are you hard on yourselves when you're making a record?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why this last one took a little bit longer, just because we had lots of songs, but we were just like so hard on them. It took a long time to have an album's worth of songs we really thought, hit the mark.
Was there any conscious decision about whether or not just the record was good enough? Was there any idea of it needs to fit in with the concept of the record or the notion of the record? Do you know what I mean? Did you have an idea of an overarching kind of principle to it at all?
Yeah, I mean, some of that, we figured out as we went along, but we knew that we wanted this record to be different. So there were certain sounds that we kind of wanted to avoid and certain kind of moods that we wanted to move towards. So that helped to guide us a bit.
To me, it sounds... you must say, well, no, Stuart, that's completely wrong. Darker, more abstract and stranger than anything you've done to date? Would that be reasonable?
I could see why you might find it darker. It's definitely like a little more emotional, a little moodier than some of our early work. In some ways, it's strange. It's a funny album because I think it has, in some ways, some of the strangest stuff we've ever done, and some of the simplest too.
Sure. I mean, a record that we're playing, we're not going to play that today because we're going to play Diane Young and I want to play a particular favourite of mine called Don't Lie. But Step that we're playing a lot of. I mean, you just won a big award last night. You're a hugely successful band, and I think that must be incredibly gratifying for you that you can have that level of success with music that really is that weird. It's quite a weird sounding record, Ezra, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, even from the beginning, I've always been kind of amazed that a lot of people could really get into our music. But early on we got used to it. I mean, I remember the first time we were playing Glastonbury and, hearing all these people sing back the lyrics to Oxford comma.
Yeah.
Which, when we started out, people were like, oh, what, you song about a comma? That's so bizarre. Like, people thought, like, how big could the audience be of people who want to hear this bunch of, knuckleheads from New York singing about a comma. But then when we went, the first time we went, it was like, tens of thousands of people were like getting psyched about it. So then that also made me realize that, even when you feel like something's weird or it's different, you got to give people credit that at the end of the day, people have the capacity to, to get down with it. If you like it, probably other people will.
And the first thing I heard from the record, the first thing a lot of people heard, was a track we're going to play now, Diane Young, which sounds a bit like the history of American rock and roll has been kind of condensed, boiled down into this kind of white-hot nugget of something. I mean, was that intentional?
Definitely the origins of that song started with a little piece of music that Rostam made that was definitely had that kind of early rock and roll feel with the saxophone and see, this is an example. To me, this song is in some ways one of our most traditional songs. This is our most rock and roll song, but then some people also think it's our craziest, weirdest one ever too.
Well, it's like, Brian Eno once said, brilliantly I think, he likes music that pulls him in two different directions at once, and I know exactly what he means. And in this, there's an element of Jerry Lee Lewis or Elvis Presley about this, and then there's obviously something kind of bent out of shape and odd about it going on as well, which is part of its charm. Should we just hear it?
Sure, let's play.
Fantastic. Diane Young by Vampire Weekend from Modern Vampires of the City, and Ezra Koenig is with us, which we are very honoured and gratified for, because Ezra had a late night at the Q Awards, at which his band were big winners, so we do appreciate you taking the time to do this, Ezra. And okay, so it's a traditional rock and roll song, except sonically it's not at all traditional. And just glancing down at the lyrics, there are references to Saabs, golf, a nod to Dylan Thomas. So what I particularly enjoy the kind of opaqueness and the allusions in the lyrics. How playful is all that?
Well, I always, it's just like with the music, we like the lyrics to to kind of have a few layers too.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some playfulness going on. I mean, that song does kind of have a theme, but always like to kind of bring in a lot of references and kind of, tell a story that way.
Yeah, yeah. Did that ever get you into trouble? I mean, because I'm unashamedly like pop that's kind of clever and takes chances. But some people think pop music shouldn't have evolved ever beyond Great Balls of Fire, which is odd, really, because that sounds a little like Great Balls of Fire. But
right.
But you know what I mean? Some people think that pop should never get ideas above its station. So did you?
Well, just like in life, there's always a danger in coming across as too clever. I mean, because people don't like. Yeah, people like to engage with music, I think, but people don't also want to listen to something if they think somebody's just throwing words in just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
So, I think it's important to find that middle ground between being playful and also having lyrics that mean something.
Sure.
So, I remember in early days, whatever, we get critics who would say these lyrics are about nothing or they're frivolous.
Yeah.
But the truth, I mean, that's kind of just the difference between a fan who engages with what you do and somebody who doesn't. So I think to the people who really like our band, the lyrics have a lot of meaning, which of course is what we want.
Sure. And also, I guess, over the last few years, gratifyingly, I think something approaching kind of geekiness has become cool. And we have a lot of bands in this country like Everything and Dutch Uncles who are big bands who play music with oblique references and complicated time signatures, which I guess it's kind of what you do in a way, isn't it? Yeah, so it's a gratifying thing. Was it Chairman Mao said, let 1,000 flowers bloom. It's a Broadchurch pop music, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you listening to... do you listen to different things now than you did when you were starting out? I mean, do you listen to... Has it altered your relationship with music? Can you listen just for fun anymore?
Oh, yeah. I'm still a huge music fan. And in fact, I don't know why, this year, more than ever, I had like a feeling that I was just really excited to be alive at this time in music. Just I felt like a lot of good stuff was coming out.
Yeah.
And yeah, kind of the way that I think about being in a band and the decisions that we make, I still kind of base that all on just... the way I feel as a fan of bands, past and present. So that's kind of the guiding principle.
Yeah. And do you work kind of collectively? Are you a model liberal democracy?
No, not. I wouldn't call us a liberal democracy. Maybe like some kind of oligarchy, socialist dictatorship.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but people over the years we've settled into something approaching roles.
Yeah.
Like we have a producer in the band, Rostam, who's also, he and I together are the main songwriters, but everybody contributes in different ways. So it's like, and I think, in bands, it can't be, it's very difficult in a band if it's literally being pulled in 4 different directions equally. It's kind of hard to get anything done. But if like everybody can contribute their ideas, but still kind of know that maybe that person tends to do a lot of that, that's kind of how it works best.
You mentioned Rostam there, and I do remember the bizarre coincidence. You once came to play for us when we were in another studio on a nighttime show, and you came in and did a live set for us with a string section that you just met that day.
Right.
And if you remember, one of the string section was called Rostam, which I named because I'd never come across anybody with the name before. And then there were 2 people playing in the same band with that name on that night. I remember you did that several years ago at the time of the first album. But so how long have you been in the UK now? You've not been here long?
No, I just got in Sunday night.
Okay. And when do you leave?
I'm going to hang around till Friday.
Okay.
Have some fun in London.
Cool. Excellent. What do we need to know, if anything, or what can you tell us about Don't Lie?
Well, Don't Lie was one of the last songs that we wrote for the album. Definitely a favorite within the band. Lately we've been when we've been playing it live, because when you hear the recording, there's a lot of strings and harpsichord and stuff like that. Lately we've developed a live version that's a little bit grungy.
Okay.
It's some kind of distorted guitars.
Okay.
We played it at home in New York for one of our shows, and we kind of went from this grungy version of the song into Song 2 by Blur.
Oh, great.
That was kind of like our 90s
that was your...
little section of the show.
Well, No, look, currently I love this, and I love the track Hudson as well, but I figured that Hudson might be a little chillier for the middle of the afternoon. So
that's a better one for late night.
That certainly is, but this is Don't Lie, which is great, from a great record, with a fabulous cover, I should say. Tell me a bit about that picture on the front of the album.
Well, that's a picture that is from the 60s. It was a picture taken by a New York Times photographer of this incredibly smoggy day in New York. And Rostam came across that picture, and we started trying to lay it out and see how it looked with, the name of the band and eventually the name of the album, and it just kind of fit.
Yeah.
And one thing that we all thought was cool about it is that it's from the 60s, but there is this like weird timeless quality. Something about the smoke and the smog. You don't know when it was taken. It gives this kind of mystical aura to the city, which is something that we try to do with the album.
Yeah, no, it's totally. You glanced at it at first, and it's kind of both post-apocalyptic and medieval and mysterious and kind of doomy and romantic, but it's beautiful, and it's a great record. And thank you very much, Ezra. I appreciate that you've come in on your day off after a night out party. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you very much. And these are Vampire Weekend and Don't Lie.